Canelo Alvarez, on the other hand, is no stranger to fighting smaller opponents moving up in weight. He has consistently faced and beaten elite fighters across multiple weight classes, proving that his power, defense, and ring IQ make him a dangerous challenge for anyone. Unlike Crawford, Canelo is comfortable at 168 pounds and has proven that he can handle bigger punchers. The biggest criticism of Canelo in recent years has been his tendency to fight at a slower pace, conserving energy for explosive moments rather than overwhelming opponents with volume. If Crawford can keep Canelo from finding his rhythm, he might be able to control the pace of the fight and steal rounds on the judges' scorecards. However, if he can't keep Canelo off him, he could find himself absorbing heavy shots and struggling to keep up with the physicality of the super middleweight division. This is why many believe Crawford's strategy will determine whether this fight is competitive or one-sided in Canelo's favor. There's also the financial aspect of this fight, which cannot be ignored. While Crawford insists that he's taking this fight to cement his legacy, many boxing insiders believe this is more about securing a massive payday before potentially retiring. The fact that he has no plans to stay in the division long-term raises eyebrows, as most fighters moving up would want to prove themselves against top contenders before going straight for the champion. By skipping past all the top 168-pound fighters and going straight to Canelo, Crawford is making it clear that this is a one-time event. If he truly wanted to test himself at super middleweight, why not fight someone like David Benavidez first? The answer is simple. Benavidez is too dangerous, and the reward isn't nearly as big as a mega fight with Canelo. This leads many to believe that Crawford is prioritizing the business side of boxing rather than proving he belongs in the weight class. One of the most interesting comparisons being made ahead of this fight is how it mirrors Canelo's bout against Jermell Charlo. When Charlo moved up to face Canelo, he was widely criticized for playing it safe and avoiding serious exchanges. Fans were frustrated with his lack of aggression, as he seemed more focused on surviving rather than trying to win. If Crawford follows the same blueprint, it could lead to another disappointing fight for those expecting an all-out war. However, Crawford is a different fighter than Charlo. He has better boxing IQ, more discipline, and a stronger ability to adjust mid-fight. If he can use his skills to keep Canelo uncomfortable, he has a real chance to make this a competitive bout. But if he spends too much time on the defensive, it could turn into another frustrating night for fans who paid to see a spectacle. At the end of the day, this fight is about legacy, money, and risk. Crawford is stepping into the ring against one of the most dominant champions of this era, and he's doing so without testing himself at the weight class first. It's a high-risk, high-reward move that could either elevate his career to legendary status or expose the limitations of moving up too quickly. Meanwhile, Canelo is looking to solidify his position as the king of 168 pounds, proving that no one, regardless of skill, can simply walk into his division and take his belts. The build-up to this fight is filled with intrigue, speculation, and questions that will only be answered on fight night. Whether it ends in a shocking upset or a dominant Canelo victory, one thing is certain. Boxing fans around the world will be watching closely to see how this high-stakes showdown plays out. Terence Crawford is preparing for one of the biggest challenges of his career as he plans to jump 2 weight classes, moving from 154 pounds to 168 pounds to take on Canelo Alvarez for his WBA, WBC, and WBO super middleweight titles. The fight is set to take place on September 13th in Las Vegas, and fans are eager to see how Crawford will handle the drastic jump in weight against one of boxing's most dominant champions. Recently, Crawford gave a sneak peek into his training camp, showing off his movement and strategy for the fight. While many casual fans expect him to come in aggressively, similar to how he fought Errol Spence Jr., seasoned boxing analysts know that this is not Crawford's usual approach. His performance against Spence was an anomaly, fueled by the fact that Spence was not in peak condition, having struggled with weight issues and past injuries. In reality, Crawford is a more strategic, defensive fighter who relies on counterpunching and smart movement rather than relentless aggression. His fight against Israil Madrimov is a better representation of his true style: calculated, cautious, and focused on avoiding unnecessary risks. Given that Canelo is known for his power and ability to cut off the ring, it will be interesting to see whether Crawford can stick to his tactical approach or if he will be forced into exchanges where Canelo thrives. One of the biggest concerns surrounding this fight is Crawford's decision to skip past the traditional route of acclimating to a new weight class before facing its top champion. Instead of taking a fight against a high-level contender at 168 pounds, such as Olsleys Iglesias, Diego Pacheco, or Christian Mbili, Crawford is diving straight into the deep end against Canelo. This raises questions about whether he is truly committed to competing in the super middleweight division, or if this is simply a one-time move for a massive payday. If Crawford were serious about making a statement at 168, taking a tune-up fight would have helped him adjust to the extra weight, test his power against naturally bigger opponents, and give fans confidence that he belongs in this division. However, his decision to skip this step has led to skepticism, especially since he has already hinted that he might either retire or return to 154 pounds after this fight. Many believe that this signals his true intentions, cashing in on the biggest fight possible rather than building a long-term legacy at super middleweight. The way Crawford approaches this fight will be crucial in shaping how fans perceive this matchup. Many remember Jermell Charlo's disappointing performance against Canelo in 2023, when he also moved up 2 weight classes and spent most of the fight avoiding exchanges rather than engaging. Charlo's strategy resulted in a lackluster fight that left fans frustrated, and there are concerns that Crawford might take a similar approach, focusing more on survival than trying to win decisively. If Crawford spends most of the fight on the back foot, moving defensively rather than taking risks, it could lead to a dull fight that fails to live up to the hype. On the other hand, if he chooses to stand his ground and trade with Canelo, he risks getting caught by the Mexican champion's powerful counterpunches. This strategic dilemma will play a huge role in how the fight unfolds, and fans are hoping that Crawford brings the fight to Canelo instead of playing it safe. Another factor that adds to the uncertainty is Crawford's performance when he previously moved up in weight. When he fought Madrimov at 154 pounds, he did not show significant power, and by the end of the fight, his face was visibly marked up from the punishment he absorbed. In contrast, when Vergil Ortiz Jr. recently fought Madrimov, he handled him much more decisively, showing more aggression and landing harder shots. This comparison makes some question how well Crawford will handle an even bigger jump in weight, especially against an opponent as strong as Canelo. If he struggled with Madrimov at 154, how will he cope with a seasoned super middleweight who has faced the likes of Gennady Golovkin, Caleb Plant, and Dmitry Bivol? These concerns make Crawford's challenge even more intriguing, as fans are left wondering whether he can defy the odds or if he is. With all these elements in play, this fight is shaping up to be one of the most talked about events in boxing. But whether it delivers fireworks or falls flat will depend entirely on how Crawford approaches the biggest night of his career. One of the biggest questions leading up to this fight is how Crawford's body will handle the extra weight. Moving up from 154 to 168 pounds is a significant jump.